So you can go and live that for yourself. And just a little bit further north of Wadi Rum, we come to the jewel in the crown, which is the ancient city of Petra, a rose-red city half as old as time, carved into the rock there, and you can certainly put that on your list of things to see. You need to spend at least a day, if not 2 or even 3 there. As we move out into the rest of the country, there are swathes of featureless desert. But even if you go due east from Amman out towards the road, towards Saudi Arabia, and even out to Iraq, there are places of interest. You've got the desert castles, you've got Qaza Umrah, Umar Rasas. These are critical in terms of the development of world religions of both Islam and from Catholicism. And you can even take a day trip out to the Azraq wetlands as well, an oasis in the desert, which is a critical staging post for migratory birds going north and south.
There's an awful lot, isn't there, when you think about it? Considering you said so much of it is desert.
There is an awful lot to pack in, but the country is quite compact. You can drive from the northern border to the southern border in about 6 hours. And because there's an awful lot of desert, what you'll generally see tends to be concentrated on that on the western side of the country. So it's not as if you're crossing huge distances like you might be in the United States or in Australia. So you can do justice to Jordan by traveling there for a week. If you have 10 days, all the better. But you can do justice from travelling for a day, 5 days on the ground, and travel back a day.
You said driving. Can you get around on public transport? Is that possible?
You can. There are the jet buses, JETT, and they're the equivalent of National Express. So they go from Jerusalem and Israel all the way across down into Amman, then from Amman down to Aqaba via Petra and back up again. The local buses, I think that's confusing enough even for the locals. But taxis are widely available, widely used, and widely controlled as well. They'll have meters. They're all painted yellow, and it's an accepted way of getting around, not only for tourists but also for the locals. Or of course you can hire a car. My parents hired a car when they were there in 2010. Dad was 70 if he was a day, and if he can get around, I'm sure the rest of us can.
I'm not too sure about me, but there we go. I was driving around Dominica, a small island, and there's one roundabout, and I missed it. I went round it the wrong way. That's another story.
I was there in March, and we actually made a detour so they could show us the roundabout. It was very exciting.
I do love the place, but I mean, they're so laid back, they make people from Barbados look hyperactive, don't they?
Yes, it is. It is a great destination, and of course, you know, they're still dealing with the after effects of Tropical Storm Erica in August, but everything's back on its feet, with the exception of the Jungle Bay. But anyway, back to Jordan.
We're going off track.
If you're going abroad by plane, boat, or the family car, if you're going abroad for pleasure or business, there's one essential thing to do before you go. Check the expiry date on your European Health Insurance card. You can renew it up to 6 months before it expires. Visit nhs.uk/healthcareabroad or call 0845 606 2030. Bon voyage!
You can follow me on Twitter @holiday_hut. There's still some uncertainty when you'll be able to travel back to Sharm el Sheik and the Red Sea resorts there. There are some alternatives being banded out, but I haven't seen Jordan suggested yet, and Jordan does have a coastline on the Red Sea. So I wanted to know whether the Red Sea resorts in Jordan, whether they compare with the ones in Egypt, whether it's somewhere you can go as an alternative. And Stephen's going to let us know.
It's a 6 and 2 3s. Aqaba is very much a working port. It's a proper town. It's got a downtown area. People live there. People work there. It's not simply a holiday resort. So there is actually earthy life there for you to go and explore. But there is also the resort areas out in the Tala Bay side. So if you go out of Aqaba down towards Saudi Arabia on the eastern side, that leads you down to the development at Tala Bay, where you've got the Radisson Blu, you've got the Kempinski, you've got the Royal Diving Club. The whole coastline is 27 kilometres in maximum, so nothing's very far away from each other. And you've got the Intercontinental Hotel that's right in the middle of Aqaba, and you've got Mervyn-Peak, you've got Kempinski, you've got Radisson Blu, you've got the Diving Club. So there are some options there. What is great about Aqaba is that you've got the Red Sea, you've got the beach, you've got the diving, you've got the scuba diving, you've got the snorkeling, you've got all of those things that you'd expect with any Red Sea resort. Plus, you've got the history of the Arab Revolt and the Ottomans, and only a hop and a skip away. It's about 45 minutes to an hour to get either to Wadi Rum or even up to Petra. So you could base yourself in Aqaba, and you could have a week in Aqaba, having a few days on the beach, relaxing. Then you could do a great day trip away to Wadi Rum. Then you could have another day on the beach, a great day trip up to Petra, and you could very much use that as your base. There are the chain hotels that I've described to you, but broadly speaking, they're not on an all-inclusive basis like they are in Egypt. They generally tend to be on a bed and breakfast or a half-board basis. But what that does give you is the opportunity to get out and explore the town of Aqaba itself.
It's a much better way of doing it. So you already the way you described it, your part of the Red Sea sounds a lot better than the other bit. The Egyptian bit. What about?
I would never say better or worse. I would say different.
To me, it sounds a lot better. I can say that, so I can say to me it sounds a lot better. What about when the Dead Sea? How does your half part of it compare to the Israeli part? Because I've seen pictures and it just seems to be mobbed. Are you a bit more relaxed, a bit easier to get around?
I've never been to the Israeli side.
Oh, okay. So
I cannot comment from personal experience, although I am led to believe that it is
You've been very diplomatic.
It's a more, as one must when one is talking about this particular part of the world. The access to the Dead Sea itself is easier from the Jordanian side because the beaches and the landscape gently shelves down into the Dead Sea, as opposed to having rather abrupt cliffs that are prevalent on the Israeli side. The Israelis have built artificial lagoons, but it's not quite the same as having the natural landscape there. But so all of the Jordanian leisure activities that are based around the Dead Sea tend to be around the northern side of the Dead Sea, and you've got that's where you've got the exhibition centre with the brand new Hilton Hotel. There's a Crown Plaza. There's a Marriott. There's a Kempinski. There's the Mervyn-Peak. There's all kinds of options there, and all of those hotels are built on the Dead Sea with direct access to the Dead Sea itself. They all have their own in-house spa facilities also, but you've got the largest spa in the world on your doorstep. So have some breakfast, have some lunch, whatever. Stroll down, put your clobber on a sunbed, warm up in the sun for a bit, cover yourself in mud, which is all available in clay urns at the side of the Dead Sea, smear the mud all over your body, bake in the sun, wait for it to dry, and then go and wash it all off in the Dead Sea. And the combination of the minerals and the gases that float on top of the Dead Sea, the salt of the Dead Sea itself, and the fact that you've got exposure to the sun with less risk of being burnt, because the sun's got 450 meters more atmosphere to actually penetrate. I'm not saying you won't get burnt, but there is less risk of getting burnt. In fact, the Germans actually pay for people who suffer from skin conditions like psoriasis to travel out to the Dead Sea precisely so they can have exposure to the beneficial effects of the sun without fear of getting burnt.
I'll have to send my dad out there. But what I really want to know of all these minerals and stuff, would it make my hair grow back?
Sadly, I think you and I have a similar haircut. No.
My hunt continues. You can keep up to date with travel news and leave me a message at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. If you've been lucky enough to visit Jordan, please do share your photos and videos at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. So we've got some visual effects we can use to work alongside the descriptions that Stephen's given us this week. Now we're going to find out with somebody like me who's not a fan of the heat, if the Highlands will be the place for me to base myself while visiting the country. I'm not really a fan of the heat. Would I be better off basing myself in the Highlands part of the country? Or is it warm there too?
It's in the summertime. It's always warm, but it's not humid. It tends to be very much a dry heat. So, I mean, think of the climate as being less Arabian Peninsula and more Eastern Mediterranean. Think Cyprus, think Greece. It's that type of temperature. But whilst the Dead Sea is 450 meters below sea level, if you're up in Amman and in Ajloon in the highlands of the north, you're 1,000 meters above sea level. And whilst it is warm, it does tend to be very much a dry heat.
My favourite type. So yeah, okay. I base myself in the Highlands. So what would I do if I was there? What would you recommend?
Well, there are some wonderful places that you can go and see and visit. Right up in the north, you've got the nature reserves of Ajloon, and you can actually stay at Royal Society of the Conservation of Nature. They have some lodges that are in the nature reserve there, and there are walking trails that you can do up there. And of course, you've got the ancient historical sites of Kais, of Pella, of Jerash. Jerash is just phenomenal. Petra's great. You expect it to be wonderful, and it is. I prefer Jerash because I expected it to be another Roman city to be dragged around like I had done as a child through Italy and France. But you turn up there, and it just knocks everything else into a cocked hat. There are over 800 columns that are still standing, all with their capitals. There's a massive oval piazza. There's the colonnaded street where you can still see the marks and the flagstones from the chariots of 2,000 years ago. There's a nymphaeum halfway along. There's temples. There's theatres. There's a triumphal triumphal arch for the visit of the Emperor Hadrian, and they've even got a hippodrome outside where they used to have chariot races, just like in Ben-Hur, and they still have reenactments today. So Jerash is absolutely phenomenal, and this is all within 40-45 minutes of each other. Even if you're up on the top of the mountains, let's say you're at Madaba and Mount Nebo. This was where the Holy Land was revealed to Moses and where he's supposed to be buried. So you're standing on top of the mountains and you look down across the Dead Sea, 450 meters below sea level, across the Jordan River Valley, and then to the hills of Jerusalem beyond. And it will only take you an hour to drive down to the Jordan River Valley, and then you can go to visit the baptism site of Christ, where Christ crossed the River Jordan to where John was baptizing. And so the baptism site of Christ, which was recently inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, you can go and visit that for yourself. The last 3 popes have been to Mount Nebo, so you can stand in the same place as the popes, whether you're a religious man or not, doesn't matter. Stand in the same place as the last 3 popes, see the view that was revealed to Moses, and then go down and see where Christ was baptized. There's loads to have a go at. There really is.
It does sound like it. So if someone's going on a city break, would you say they'll spend most of the time out of the city and doing all the sightseeing because it's all so close? Or is there enough in a city to keep you occupied for 2 or 3 days?
Yes, there is. Amman's great. Amman is a modern city built on an ancient site. There's been continual habitation there for 6,000 years or so. It's a modern city. It's a cosmopolitan city, conservative with a small c. It's an Arabic Muslim capital that is looking west. So if you want to go out clubbing until 4 o'clock in the morning, having whiskey and cokes and vodka with the best of them, you can do that. Or if you want to go down Rainbow Street and you want to have a traditional Jordanian meal in a restaurant there, followed by smoking a shisha pipe and drinking coffee and watching the football with everyone else, you can do that as well. So it is very much a combination of ancient and modern, of westward leaning but proudly Arabic, and of course There's souks for great shopping. There are historical sites